All right, I'm doing this one a lot more less formal. Essentially, what I'm going to try to do is lay out exactly how I've been using the Smpl Trek, the Lofi-12 XT, and the Ambient 0 to put together different little sounds and doing some sound design. But ultimately, it's going to be a take on my view on the Ambient 0 so far. This is the way I've been doing it. Once I get a nice little patch worked in, let's see, let's get something a little bit more punchy. So what I do is I just press hold. That triggers just the button that I press just so that can go. And I'm gonna play with the cutoff a little bit. And now that I got a nice little low drone going, add some of that LFO. Gets a little bit of variation in that drone. And I've got it synced up, all coming out of the SmplTrek for my major brain. And that's also going into the Lofi-12 XT and into here. So when you see that beeping, I've got all that going from the clock. Now that I've got a nice little drone sound going, let's add some noise. What do we have on the noise? We've got rain, fire, rumble. Forest, yeah, let's add some forest sounds. Nice animal sounds in the background there. Let's get a nice little drum track going. Let's go with the reggaeton. I really like that hard sub in there. And let's just drop an easy pattern in there. Doing things impromptu with some of these devices are a little difficult. That's a little bit more intense than I want, so let's see if we can. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty nice. A little ducking hi-hat in there. Alright, now that I got a nice little drum pattern going, I'm going to use the Lofi-12 to add a secondary drum track to go over to it. So just in case if I have to do some transitions or something, I'm going to have something in there. I'm going to adjust it a little bit, the sample, because I've got a preloaded sample and it's a full kit. One of those ones from Chris Lodi that's preloaded. Alright, now it's synced up with this one already too, like these other ones. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let's see, play around with some sounds. I already like where that's going, but let's see if we can add a little variation. And to do this is something that I feel like you should be able to do with the SmplTrek, but it doesn't give you this ability. But essentially what I'm gonna do is extend the length of this pattern while it's going in real time. To do that, I'm holding function. Now it should be 32 bars of the same pattern. I'm gonna do one more because I like 64 just to have a little bit more to play around in there. But now that we got our little thing going, let's see if we can add a little variety here. And the second part, now let's do it on the third part, we'll change it up. When it hits that third bar, you'll have a little variation in there. So the reason that I add a second drum track on the SmplTrek or the Lo-Fi is that when I drop out of it, I can still have that going. It's something that's almost impossible to do with the SmplTrek by itself because you can't change the patterns while it's going. So even if it does do that, like right now it messed up because I didn't hit loop while I was going. But that's okay, because I can still work it in there. But you see the limit, how I've limited the use of the ambient zero. It's not something that I've used to take over my whole production, but it's something that I can still play around in the background and give myself some fun. Let's see, we'll play with that drone. Right. So I had some pads in there just to keep things fresh. See, I really like the ambient, and sometimes I've done some where I'll just loop the patterns to where they'll go and it plays a little bit more. That's so much fun, but when it comes down to it, it makes it a lot harder to get some of the play action going, like whenever you're doing it with all the other elements. But for me personally, I like to just have it going with hold on, so then I can play with the different layers, and I use the Lofi-12 XT and the Smpl Trek as modular pieces. So if something goes in or comes out, or if something messes up, I still have some kind of sound going. That's like one of the things I fear the most when I'm performing, is that it's just a dead sound up there of just the audience, or just the crickets going, or just me panicking because something's going and they can just hear me breathing in the microphone, just by myself up there with my effects going off wrong. But now that you've got 3 different pieces going all at the same time, which I think it's important to note that these are all going into the Smpl Trek. I've got the audio for my headphone jack coming out of the Lofi-12 XT going into the right side of the Smpl Trek, and I also have the audio coming out of the ambient and going into the left side of the Smpl Trek. And all of that is going into my mixer, which I'm using to record this. But if you're in the field, all you pretty much would need would be just this box. And I'm going to be doing a few more sets as I'm going and as I'm traveling, just doing that same thing. But check how easy that drops back in. We can still play with that variety in there, just create some more sound, different, something a little different. I'm just messing around.